This is so terrible.
You gave me a cookie, I gave you a cookie. You gave me a cookie, gave you a cookie. Gave me cookie, got you cookie. You gave me cookie, I got you cookie, man. Gave me cookie, got you cookie, we're even.
We enjoy wrestling.
Hey everyone, it's We Enjoy Wrestling, already facing several obstacles this morning. Thank you for joining us, though. We are the Mattitude Eric. I am Matt Feller. Say hello, Eric Goldman.
Hey guys, what's that horrible noise, Matt?
That is my next door neighbor hiring some contractors to work on his fence and a power generator going off. I'm assuming it could be a large death machine. I don't know what it is. It's making a lot of noise, though. So if you hear that in the background, folks, apologies. I tried working from a different room, but the internet connection was kind of crappy in there. So instead of risking you not hearing our lovely sick voices, yes, we're also both sick, I moved back into the regular room, and you're going to hear some background droning, a little Terminator Salvation going on in the background.
Yeah, you know, I always remember listening to episodes of Ron Moore's Battlestar podcast, and he would just do it from his home office, and you'd hear like the gardeners right outside his window with like lawnmowers and stuff. So I feel like, you know, it just adds to the reality, Matt. And you know, Ron Moore's much more successful and talented than we are,
and he's our special guest this week.
Yay!
And he brought his gardeners with him.
Let's talk Battlestar and Outlander. Nothing but wrestling.
Outlander. It makes me so nervous. I love that show. It takes me a week to get through an episode because I have to stop it. It's so nerve-wracking, Eric. We have a lot to talk about wrestling-wise this week, but if you wanted to get into Outlander chat, we could. Like I said,
I've only seen the first half of season 1, so we probably shouldn't.
She goes back in time, and she goes ahead in time. She goes back again. Maybe she goes ahead again. I don't know. I'll have to see. She's all about that time. We are on Twitter at the Matt Fowler and the Eric Goldman. The podcast itself is on Twitter at WEW Podcast. And you can listen to us on Spreaker. You can get the Spreaker app and put that on your phones and listen to us. We're also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, aka iTunes, and Stitcher and Google Play. Although, and this is something that somebody brought up on the podcast Twitter this past week, Google Play is supposedly a bad place for actually listening to these podcasts on the Android, because I've heard a complaint in the past that they don't upload for like a week. It takes a while for the podcast to reach people on that platform. The coughing begins. Now that you've coughed, you've given me permission to cough, so that now the floodgates are open.
Yes. Coughing mania.
But someone wrote in that I'm trying to find it here on the old twit, that there's a much better way to actually listen to it on Android, and it was called Pocket Casts. Is an Android app that's way better for podcasts. So any of you out there who's got the Android phone, you can find us there. And please subscribe to us on all these places, and rate us on iTunes. Give us that 5-star Frog Splash rating, and we'd be ever so grateful. We have a lot to talk about this week, and Eric actually went to a lot of these shows live, so he'll have a little bit of a different perspective, I feel. And did you go to Raw or just TakeOver and SmackDown?
Those are the two I went to. I was supposed to go to Raw, and then I had to do a last-minute work thing that kept me from Raw.
Okay.
So I did. Yeah.
I mean, it's also a lot.
It is. Like, one of my coworkers went to TakeOver Survivor Series and Raw, and he's like, yeah, I can't do SmackDown. I'm burnt out. But we're like that with WrestleMania. You know, it's like because you do 3 or 4 shows in a row. And yeah, it's
God bless the child that's got his own and goes to all 4 WrestleMania shows. That's a lot to take in, and 5 if you actually are counting also Hall of Fame. Yeah, if you go to that in person, which I feel like I'm kind of over that. Depending on it, I think we talked about it before, but it depends on the lineup at this point.
Yeah,
like who's going in, because it can drag. You know, as much as we love these people, as much as we enjoy wrestling, it can certainly drag. So let's just we'll start from the beginning of the week and we'll just sort of move forward. I'll hop us around a little bit. I think I want to talk about TakeOver for just a small amount at the beginning here, and then the rest is all going to kind of blur together because Survivor Series, of course, leads into Raw and SmackDown, and whether or not they follow up on any storylines from, they sort of picked and chose what they followed up with Survivor Series wise, because Survivor Series, as we've mentioned before, doesn't ultimately matter, and they didn't even want SmackDown barely even mentioned the fact that they got obliterated.
They're crushing defeat.
Yeah, like Raw brought it up, SmackDown didn't, and just sort of chose. They focused on the Charlotte Flair thing and a few other things, and Daniel Bryan. But let's talk about TakeOver, and it's funny because it's way easier to talk a long time about things we have complaints about, and when it's something that we really enjoy, that really stands out, that's really good, it's not as easy to go on and gush about it, because it's just really good. And there's only so many ways you could say, that was awesome. When people used to ask me, when I was doing the wrestling wrap-up, they're like, why don't you cover Ring of Honor, and why don't you cover New Japan, and all that stuff? It's like, well, I never could find, I know people have. I know it's also changed since in the past 10 years from what it was, and has gotten a lot more, has added a little more WWE theatrics to it over the years than it used to just be sort of pure strong style wrestling, and a lot of these things were these competition based wrestling organizations where it felt a lot more legitimate, and the characters weren't as over the top, and it was harder for me to write about because I sort of wrote about storylines and they weren't at the forefront of those promotions, so it's sort of hard for me to write about that kind of stuff. I couldn't find a way, like I said, other people could. I'm not going to break down I'm not going to dissect a match, by hold. But yeah, TakeOver, again, strong show. My only complaint, Eric, and then I'll let you take over the TakeOver discussion, is that, War Games is too long. I think it sort of exhausts you because it is, and it's always been this way. It is funny that War Games technically doesn't start until everyone's in the ring. They're like, now the match begins,
Yeah. I was there, and another great show, like you said. It's like every TakeOver, it's like, oh, is this going to be the one that's going to be the weak one? And no, it was awesome. All the matches were great. Of course, the Matt Riddle Cassius Ohno one that got added at the last minute was just there kind of on a lark to push Riddle more because it was a squash match. Riddle is kind of another NXT character who's very sort of heightened, but works very well in NXT. I don't know if he would in WWE, but the bro thing for now is working very well. The only thing I'll say with the setup is that we had very good seats. We were not on the floor, but we were like second row back from the floor. And the one weird thing was that with the double ring, if the matches were in that second ring, it made it very tricky to see if they went down to the mat or if they went over on the side. You couldn't really see what was happening. The most dramatic example of this was we missed the Shayna Kyrie finish when Shayna, because it was Kyrie who got another elbow, but then Shayna turned her over. Oh yeah. So we thought we heard a 1, 2, 3, and we thought Kyrie won until we heard Shayna's music.
Oh, that was almost like an involuntary dusty finish for you. You're like, yay! I see.
It was, especially for Trish, who hates Shayna and loves Kyrie, because she's like, yeah! Then it was like, no, Trish, Shayna won. I had to bring her down.
If only it would have been perfect if the ref had to run out and tell Trish. No, he reversed the decision. Yeah.
Oh my God. No. Then she would attack the ref. And so that setup made it a little weird. But I will say, in person, I see what you mean about War Games being overly long. With it's just so the funny thing, it doesn't officially begin until everyone is in the ring. In person, the fun of it, I didn't really think about that, but I do. When watching at home, I have thought that before. And it was funny because when you were texting me to make sure I understood what had happened with the Pete Dunne can't get out of the cage thing, which we couldn't see. The weird thing I will say is they don't have everything playing on the screens there.
Oh, okay.
So that's why it makes it extra tricky. You can't do the thing where
I did, because you tweeted that he was having a Derek Smalls moment. Now, within the context of your tweet, I knew I was taking a risk by tweeting you, because I was like, he probably understands it, but just in case he doesn't, I'm going to tweet him. and I'm going to look like a fool, but I'm going to take this risk because
No,
context of Derek Smalls is that he wasn't sabotaged by an evil rival rock and roll group to come out of his pod in Spinal Tap. It was an actual just act of God malfunction. So I wanted to make sure that Eric didn't think that Pete Dunne couldn't get out because there was some huge F-up going on and there was a botch with the cage.
No, I knew that he had been locked in. I just I saw a long-haired British guy not able to join the show, and I had to make the joke. They
keeps a cucumber in his pants. Speaking of cucumber in his pants, I want to talk about Aleister Black, but go ahead.
Oh yeah, just that. So they have the action on the way up high screens. I guess if you're in the nosebleeds, but they don't have it on the big screen that they normally do. Like for on SmackDown, where you can basically watch the show on those screens if you can't see what's happening clearly.
I think they should have projected it on everyone's wristband. On everyone's...
Yes. Oh, yeah, we did have the interactive wristband. That was a new thing. Everyone was given a NXT TakeOver Wargames wristband that would light up mostly during the entrances, just like different colors. The one time it was very cool was Velveteen because they synchronized, so everyone's lit up purple. So it was like they helped us Bray Wyatt him, you know?
Yeah. But they should actually play TakeOver on those too, so you can watch them.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Inspector Gadget style.
Oh.
You couldn't see, I don't think, what we could all see on TV, which was Aleister Black coming out to the ring. His match with Johnny Gargano, excellent match. It was exactly what it was supposed to be. I'm going to ask you a question after I'm done talking about Aleister Black's dick, but
okay.
He came out, he was wearing non-black attire. Like, he was wearing sort of silver, shimmery, gray trunks and boots. And because of that, and so I made April watch the match afterwards and to get her opinions because she's seen more penises than me. He looked like when he was walking out, he looked like when he was walking out like he had a boner. Like, he looked like he was but then also at some angles I was like, is that just sort of a crease in his trunks? Has he not broken in these trunks and they're creased? And the conclusion we both came to is that he it's a combination. It was both his dick and the crease, and it was very distracting, is what I'm saying.
I did not.
He's also very blessed. Is the other messaging I'm trying to get through here. I just assumed that wasn't something you could pick up on having not watched it on television.
Yeah, thank you for explaining that to me, since I did miss that watching it live, but not close up. But I did. I for some reason it's funny because the other day you go down these YouTube things
YouTube channels about wrestlers' dicks. I get it. Yeah.
No, I did end up on some discussion about like times where we think like because every bodily function will happen to you. Like as a wrestler, I think especially and like even. I remember on you might have even still been watching Total Divas where Natty peed herself in the ring.
Yes.
But then Cena had a nice comforting moment because Nikki was mocking her, and Cena was like, "Well, I once shit myself in the ring." Like his way to defend Natty was like, "Hey,
A lot of guys have shit themselves in the ring stories.
Yeah, so an occasional boner, I have to think, will happen as well. As the body works as the body works, and so I did see some funny online discussion about times people thought there was erections happening during entrances.
And it's like maybe he was just psyched to be back. He starts off lying down. He's very calm laying there under the stage, and I don't know, just maybe something happened. It's like the adrenaline just sort of kicks in.
I don't know.
It was sort of like a hate boner because he's like, I'm going to get Gargano.
Yes.
My question is, after that match, and this is something we could also pick up on TV, right before he delivered the second black mass to Johnny, he said, I absolve you of all your sins, and kicked him and knocked him out, got the 1, 2, 3. Do you think that was sort of the end of Gargano's brief little heel run? Because Gargano was first of all, I also like how Gargano became Ciampa in that match. He even tried to trick Aleister Black in the middle of it, take me out, and then when he went to do it, tried to get a quick win on him.
Yeah.
But like, did he like essentially kick the evil